All right, so this is a translation and discussion of Pliny's letters, book 6, letter 20, chapters 4. And here we have, obviously, continuing him, the younger Pliny, talking about his experience as his mother and he stays behind at Misenum in the midst of this eruption. So, my mom burst in. This is from the verb erumpo, erumpere, erupi. And so you know that mayum is not modifying mom because mom is feminine and that would be obviously mayad. So instead it is modifying the bedroom. So my mom did burst into my bedroom. That in right there is really an in due to alliteration, and so that's why we translate it as burst into, in plus accusative, into. So mom burst into my room, and in turn, that's what in weaken means, I arose. I, the one about to wake up her, implied. And so here, obviously, your nominative form, a future active participle, modifying the subject I, if she were resting. So he, obviously, was about to go and wake her up if she were sleeping. And instead, however, she's the one that comes and bursts into his room. We did sit down, I should say. Oh, by the way, this is the protasis of a present contrary to fact. You always know what kind of condition you have by looking at the verb itself. And since we have an imperfect subjunctive, then it would be a present contrary to fact. If the subject were verbing, then the subject would verb. We don't have the apodosis, we only have the protasis, and that's why we translate it, if she were sleeping, I arose in turn, about to wake her up if she were. We sat down in an area of the house. Long US could be genitive singular of the fourth declension, nominative plural, or accusative plural. Here, obviously, it is the genitive singular indicating which area of that house. The area which divided the sea, which is accusative in the third declension, it is an I stem, hence why it has that FACO ending E both in the nominative and the accusative. So an area which divided the sea from the houses, i.e. the housing complex where his mother and he lives, by a medium space. And so therefore it's just a little bit in between the house and the sea. And so I hesitate. That's what dubito means. It means doubt or to hesitate. Dubito, dubitare. And here, that on is going to imply whether or. Often what you will have paired with the on is the word utrum, but sometimes the word utrum is left out as it is here, and you just have then the on. So I hesitate whether to call it constancy, in other words, my behavior as being just calmness and confidence, constancy. So I hesitate whether to call it constancy or whether I ought, dubio, or yes, debeo debere. The word debeo debere means to ought or to owe. It's where we get the word debt. And so therefore here we're translating it as ought. And it is a subjunctive in this indirect question, which is what we have here. And so therefore introduced by that word whether or. So I hesitate whether to call it constancy or whether I ought to call it imprudence, which is of course going to be foolishness, that he does not realize the dangers that they are in, and that's why he is not obviously showing any sort of concern. For I was driving the 18th year. He is explaining that obviously he was young and he was naive and he was foolish at 17 years old, and so to drive your 18th year means to be approaching to your 18th year, and so he's explaining why perhaps maybe he had a calm demeanor in this moment, not realizing due to his youth and inexperience of what danger that they are in. I ask for, posca poscere, a book of Titus Livius. This is of course the great Roman historian that we refer to as Livy, who wrote during the time of Augustus and was writing under Augustus with Augustus's patronage, a work called Ab Urbe Condita, a 142-book volume that was a history of all Rome from the city having been founded, which is the translation of the title. And as if through leisure, quasi we've seen now several times, I read, and I even exert. He even picks out passages, and that's what exert means, as I had begun. Again, this is one of those defective verbs, koipi, koipisse, that obviously is only going to have perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect forms. Ecce, behold, look, a friend of my uncle, a friend who recently, new pair, we've had that before, had come to him, ad eum, meaning the uncle, from Spain, as he sees, and so this ut clause, again, whenever you see an ut, look to see is there subjunctive. If there is no subjunctive, and obviously videat is an indicative, not a subjunctive, you translate it as. As he sees me and my mom sitting, me he sees truly even reading, he seizes upon, he grabs, rapio rapere, the patience of that one, meaning my mom, in other words, how calm and how patient she is, and he seizes upon my security, my nonchalance, my unconcern, if you would like. And so I, intent by less, and this word segne means sluggish or slow, and so I, more sluggish by none, intent into my book. What this means is that he is saying that he is reading with just as much veracity, with just as much enthusiasm as he normally would. He is not distracted, obviously, by all of the rumblings and by all of, obviously, geologic activity that is caused by the erupting mountain, which presumably is still spewing stuff all into the air across the bay that they could easily see. So again, I, more sluggish by none, an ablative degree of difference, intent into my book. And so therefore he is, even with the activities going on, the earthquakes, the exploding mountain, the arrival of the friend, he's still all up into his book and not obviously being sluggish and slow in his focus. So that's obviously what they obviously are going to be, and the friend of the uncle is going to be, as we see in the next chapter, is absolutely shocked at their nonchalance, at their unconcern. And it might be, obviously, as he suggests, due to his naivete and his youth.